Hi, my name is Wendy Finkley. I'm the Director of Programs for Arts4All Florida, and welcome to Spotlight on Art. This program gives us a chance to highlight our many teaching artists from across the state, giving them the opportunity to share with you an art program, an art making program that you can do right from the comfort of your home. I'd like to remind you that you will have the option for closed captioning. So if you click on the double C's below on your video screen, you can turn that on and off as you wish. And now it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you Yarrow Ries from Pinellas County, who will be doing a project in wax resist. Enjoy.
Welcome everyone. My name is Yarrow. Thank you for joining me today. I am so happy to be working with Arts4All Florida to bring art to your home. Today I will be teaching you how to create a watercolor resist painting. I have chosen a jellyfish as our model today because in Florida, where we live, we are surrounded by water. Jellyfish are the most abundant form of sea life. They are simple creatures with no bones or organs. Just like their namesake, they consist of jelly. It's a jelly-like substance. They have an umbrella-like top that acts like a pool float and keeps them floating near the surface. And then they have tentacles that drift down below them to trap the little fishes that they use for their food. I'll show you a couple of the jellyfish that I have painted in the last 2 days as I prepared for this class. The crayon I used as the wax resist, I drew the jellyfish with, and then I painted over the crayons with the watercolors. So some of them are not quite as brilliant as others. You're the artist, it will be your choice. So for materials today, we'll need a table cover, something like a piece of cardboard or newspaper or an old poster board is perfect. I have a pack of 24 Crayola school crayons. Most people have this assortment, but any crayons will do. And a box of watercolor. I think I have 16 choices in this particular kit. Sometimes these kits come with little skinny brushes, and I like to have a slightly larger brush that's softer, that picks up more water and paint. You'll need a little cup for water and some paper. So for paper, if you have watercolor paper, that would be great. If not, you can use any heavy paper like cardstock, or even pages from sketchbooks are perfect. I think they're like an 80-pound paper, and they stand up to the wet techniques that we'll be using today. So let's begin. As you can see, the top of the jellyfish is umbrella shaped. So we'll separate out our blue and green crayons because we're going to be doing a blue and green wash. So let's use the warmer colors, the yellows, the oranges, the reds. So I'll start with a red, and I'm going to draw for you it's a semicircle. It's kind of kidney shaped. You can see that. And that'll be the top. And then I'd like to put a little lip on the bottom so that it can give the illusion of 3 dimensions up inside there. My jellyfish is a lion's mane jellyfish, and I noticed he had a little button at the top. and he had some ridges that came down to the edge of his mantle. This edge is called the mantle. I'm learning so much about these guys. And then he had a fringe, a little fringe like tassels around the outside of an umbrella. So I just used little V shapes to make his fringe. I'm sure it helps him to propel himself or herself through the water. I'm going to put them on both edges. So as you can see, it starts to look like there is some hollow space up in there. Now I need to put on the tentacles. And for the tentacles, I chose 3 different line shapes. I chose a wavy line like curly hair. I chose a zigzag line like a zipper. And then some shorter, wider lines, maybe like ribbons. The way they blow in the breeze, they twist slightly. So let's begin with our straight lines. Now, if you're having a difficult time holding your crayon, perhaps you'll try this grip, the thumb and the index finger. The index finger forms a little rainbow. Now, if you can't quite get that, perhaps you could get a helper to lay his or her hand over your hand to help you guide these simple strokes. So we'll make our curly hair-like line from the middle of our fish and put a few of those in. And then the fun line, which is the zigzag. The zigzag's going to come down long. We're trying to kind of go from right to left at a diagonal on this painting because we like to fill up all of our space on the paper. Just makes it more interesting. So I've got my zigzags. Now the ribbon, a little more tricky. I'll use orange for the ribbon. Like I said, they're slightly wider, so I'm going to draw a parallel line and just freehand it. You don't want to fill in these lines because you want to have plenty of space for the watercolor to fall onto the, maybe one more here. Oh, and also, let's give them some interest. Maybe some little circles. They might be bubbles, possibly. Just something to resist the watercolor. So I've got my little bubbles. I could even put some bubbles here. Yeah. I'm sure he disturbs the water a bit. All right. Now I'm going to look at that and think, am I happy with my drawing? I might put a little more something up here. I'm not going to color in though. You're the artist. You can make this up. He can be a one-of-a-kind jellyfish. Who knows, a new species. So now it's time to paint. Like I said, we're going to need to use our blues and greens because the water, which you know is clear, is actually reflecting the blue sky and the green seaweed that lives on the bottom. And as it refracts, you look through water, you see a lot of different shades. So this is going to be a very wet technique that we use. And then for our jellyfish, we're going to just come through with some of these colors that we've laid down with our crayons and just paint over them. Kind of stay in the lines, but it's not really that important. So let's begin with wetting our brush. Always get your brush nice and wet. And we're going to ignore those blues and greens to begin with. And I like to get a puddle in my tablet, work it around until you see the brush hairs pick up the pigment. And then just come over your sections. And one thing about watercolor, it's hard to work on a vertical surface. I'm just doing this for you so that you can see what I'm doing. But it's really quite runny, so you'll want to work flat and keep that brush wet. Okay. A little bit more water. I want some fuchsia in here. So I picked up some fuchsia. And see how it blends right into that orange? And it does not stick to the, it doesn't stick to the wax. Wax resist. And let's see, how about some purple? I have a violet. I think I'll do my fringe, my little fringe with some purple. I have a really hard paper, so it's not really taking up the. I'm going to take a lighter color, maybe my yellow. You'll probably have a little harder time seeing it, and come up inside my jellyfish. Just to, because you know the sun wouldn't be shining there, so that would be a lighter area. Now I'm ready to do my tentacles. I have a bright orange for my ribbon. Just trace over it because the wax will kind of corral the paint, and it's really a fun way to work. Okay. I'm going to dip into some red for my little curly hair-like tentacles. Watercolor dries pretty quickly. So I can see it's already starting to dry up there. Pick up some more water. I'm going to go into my purple. My zigzag was purple. Oh, that's coming out nice. You can really see the way it resists. And you can take your time with this. We're trying to get this done on the video quickly so that you can, there. So you can see how the wax is resisting the paint. See, I should probably do a couple bubbles. I have a mustardy yellow that might show off my bubbles nicely. Maybe not. You can't do anything wrong in a wet on wet resist, that's for sure. So I'm going to look, and when the paint loses its gloss, it's dried. So it's probably safe to go around with your blues and greens. So now we're going to make water, ignoring all those other colors. We're going to pull up some medium blue, maybe a darker blue. I think I'll start at the top though. I'm going to come up here with some blue. Just lay some color down over here. It's good to work an area at a time. And then pick up some turquoise. Go into the work into the white, and you'll see how the edge blends. I'm painting my painting board. There. Oh, there's a good bubble. When you do lots of bubbles. They seem to really set this off. I'm going to go back into my blue. Keep that blue moving. You can end up with some pretty interesting colors. Let's see, dark blue. It's getting deeper down here toward the bottom. So I'm going to put some darker blues down there. I hope I have this centered so you can see it. You know, really, we could have put a little in there. You could go back and put a fish in when your painting is dry. See? And come over here and just put in some blue, green. So you don't want to control your brush strokes. That gives the illusion of the water rippling or moving in currents. So that's pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to experiment a little bit with just some water on my brush and see if I can do a little blending. It's going to be hard because I'm upright, but yeah. You could get really tricky with this, and you could even throw some salt in here. But it's kind of hard to do during the summer months when we have our air conditioners on because this dries so quick. But you could play with salt. Anyway, that kind of looks like what I want it to look like. Here's our jellyfish. And like I said, once it dries, you could go back in with maybe pen and ink or a dark leaded pencil, and you could draw a little fish in there. So thank you, great job. And you might want to press this out if it gets a little bit too bumpy. Put it under some heavy books after it's dry. We'd love to hear from you. If you would like, you could post your work on social media in using our tag at Arts4All Florida. That's the number 4. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.